The ship came out of faster-than-light travel with a soft hum. Through the observation windows, the cadets could see 7 for the first time. It was a dead moon, gray and cracked, orbiting a star that burned red and weak. Nothing lived here. Nothing had lived here for thousands of years. Pressed her hand against the cold glass and stared at the surface below. Somewhere down there, buried under dust and stone, were the ruins of a species called the. They had disappeared 40,000 years ago. No one knew why. No one knew where they went. They simply vanished, leaving behind empty cities and broken monuments across 100 worlds. Nervous, a voice asked behind her. She turned to see walking toward her. He was tall and confident, with the kind of easy smile that made everyone trust him. He was the team leader for their group, chosen because he stayed calm when others panicked. Not nervous, said, just thinking. About what? She looked back at the moon. About how strange it is. They were traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves, and now they're gone and we're here, digging through their garbage. Laughed, that's one way to look at it. He put a hand on her shoulder. Come on, Admiral is giving the final briefing. The briefing room was packed with cadets from 6 different species. Humans sat beside tall, thin beings with silver skin. Short, 4-armed creatures argued quietly with floating entities made of light. The Galactic Union had brought together hundreds of intelligent species, and the Academy trained the best of them together. Admiral stood at the front. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice was strong. This excavation is a training exercise, he said. You will work in teams. You will catalog everything you find. You will not damage anything. You will not remove anything without permission. The ruins are protected under Union law. Understood? The cadets answered together, Yes, Admiral. Good, shuttles leave in 1 hour. Found her team near the back of the room. Besides, there was a girl with bright eyes and endless energy who specialized in alien archaeology. And there was a thin boy with messy hair who could fix any machine but struggled to talk to people. I heard the site is huge, said excitedly. Temples, libraries, maybe even a palace. Can you imagine what we might find? Broken rocks, said flatly. Lots of broken rocks. You have no imagination. I have plenty of imagination. I'm imagining a warm bed and hot food instead of digging in the dirt. Smiled but said nothing. She was thinking about the again. Every species in the galaxy had theories about what happened to them. War, disease, some kind of natural disaster. But none of the theories explained everything. They had been powerful. They had technology that modern species still could not understand. How could something so advanced simply disappear? The shuttle ride down was rough. 7 had thin atmosphere and strong winds. The small ship shook and rattled until it finally touched down on a flat stretch of gray rock. When stepped outside, the cold hit her immediately. Her suit protected her, but she could still feel it pressing against her. The sky was dark purple and the red sun hung low on the horizon. Everything felt old. Everything felt tired. The ruins were a short walk from the landing site. Saw them rising from the dust like bones sticking out of dead skin. Broken pillars, collapsed walls, doorways that led nowhere. Once this had been a city. Now it was a graveyard. Teams spread out, Admiral ordered through the communication system. Report anything unusual. His team was assigned to the eastern section, near what the researchers believed was once a temple. The work was slow and careful. They used small brushes and scanning tools to clear away dirt and examine each fragment. Hours passed, found pieces of pottery with faded paintings, discovered metal tools that had rusted into strange shapes, complained about the dust getting into his equipment. Worked alone near a collapsed pillar. She moved carefully, brushing away layer after layer of gray soil. Her mind wandered as she worked. She thought about her grandmother back on Earth, who had taught her to love languages. She thought about the first time she had seen alien writing and felt something click in her brain. Then her brush hit something hard. She stopped, leaned closer, brushed more carefully. There was something beneath the dirt, something smooth and black. She called softly, "Come here." He was beside her in seconds. "What did you find?" "I don't know yet." Together they cleared away more dirt. Slowly, the object revealed itself. It was a tablet about the size of a small window, made of stone so black it seemed to swallow light, and covering its surface were markings, spirals and lines and shapes that twisted in patterns had never seen before. But that was not the strangest part. The strangest part was that the markings were glowing, faintly, barely visible but definitely glowing. A soft blue light pulsed through the carved lines like blood through veins. "That's impossible," whispered. She had joined them without noticing. "Artifacts don't have power anymore. Their energy sources died thousands of years ago." "This one didn't," said. He held up his scanner. "I'm reading active energy signatures, low level but definitely there." Stood up, "I'm calling the Admiral." Within an hour, the tablet was carefully removed and taken to the ship for study. The alien instructors examined it briefly and declared it was probably decorative, a piece of art, nothing important. But was not so sure. That night, alone in her small room, she pulled up the images she had taken of the tablet. She stared at the glowing symbols, tracing them with her eyes. Something about them felt familiar. Not familiar like she had seen them before. Familiar like a song she had heard in a dream but could not quite remember. She opened her translation software and began to work. She did not sleep that night or the next. 3 days had passed since they found the tablet. 3 days without proper sleep. 3 days of staring at symbols until they burned into her eyes even when she closed them. Her room was a mess. Data pads covered every surface. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing hundreds of alien alphabets and language patterns. Empty food containers sat forgotten in corners. She had stopped going to meals. She had stopped answering messages from her teammates. She could not stop, not now, not when she was so close. The translation should have been impossible. The language had been studied for centuries, and the symbols on the tablet did not match anything in the databases. Every analysis program said the same thing: unknown origin, no matches found. But did not trust the programs. Programs looked for exact matches. They compared symbol to symbol, pattern to pattern. They could not feel what she felt when she looked at the tablet. There was something hidden in the writing, something the programs could not see. She started over from the beginning. Instead of comparing the symbols to known languages, she studied the symbols themselves, how they were shaped, how they connected to each other, how much space was between them. That was when she noticed the first clue. The spacing was not random. At first glance, it looked uneven, almost careless. But when she measured it carefully, she found patterns. The gaps between certain symbols followed a sequence: 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. Prime numbers. Her heart beat faster. Prime numbers were universal. Every intelligent species discovered them eventually. They were the foundation of mathematics, the language that all thinking beings shared. She looked deeper. Behind the prime numbers, she found another pattern: 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. The sequence, another universal constant, another sign of intelligence reaching out across the void. This was not decoration. This was not art. This was a message, deliberately encoded to be found by someone who knew what to look for. But encoded by who, and for who? She worked faster now. Her fingers flew across the controls, building new models, testing new theories. If the mathematical patterns were a key, then the symbols themselves must be the lock. She needed to find the connection. Hours passed, she barely noticed. The breakthrough came near midnight on the third day. She was comparing the symbol arrangements to phonetic structures from different species when she saw it. the way certain symbols clustered together, the rhythm of the patterns. It matched nothing in the alien databases, but it matched something else. It matched the deep structure of human language. Not modern human language. Something older. Something buried so deep in human linguistic history that it existed only in theories and fragments. The patterns matched reconstructions of proto-languages, the ancient roots from which all human speech had grown. Sat back in her chair. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was racing. This was impossible. Humans had only left Earth a few hundred years ago. They had been dead for 40,000 years. There was no way human language patterns could appear in ruins. Unless the message was not from the at all. She worked through the night. Using the mathematical keys and the linguistic patterns, she slowly decoded the symbols, letter by letter, word by word. The message took shape on her screen, written in a language that felt both alien and deeply, impossibly familiar. By morning she had finished. She read the translation 3 times. Each time she hoped she had made a mistake. Each time the words remained the same. The message was a warning, and it was addressed to whoever might find it, whoever might understand. It was addressed to the children of Earth. A knock at her door made her jump. She had forgotten where she was, forgotten that other people existed. It was voice. "Are you okay? You haven't answered anyone in days." She stood up slowly. Her legs were weak. She had not eaten properly since she started working. "I'm okay," she said. Her voice was rough. "I need to talk to Admiral." There was a pause. "What? Why?" I translated the tablet. Another pause, longer this time. "That's impossible. The instructors said it was undecipherable." They were wrong. She opened the door, stood there with and behind him. They all looked worried. She probably looked terrible with dark circles under her eyes and her hair uncombed. She did not care. "It's not," she said. "The tablet, it's not from the—" "Then who made it?" asked. Looked at her friends, the people she had trained with for years, the people who trusted her. "We did," she said. "Humans, 12,000 years ago." No one spoke, no one moved. "I know it sounds crazy," continued. "I thought I was wrong. I checked everything 100 times, but the evidence is clear. The mathematical encoding uses concepts that the never developed. The linguistic structure matches proto-human language roots, and the message itself." She stopped, took a breath. "The message talks about Earth, by name. It talks about things that only humans would know, and it warns us. It warns us about something terrible." Broke the silence first. "What does it warn us about?" Shook her head. "I need to tell the Admiral. Everyone needs to hear this." She pushed past them and walked toward the command deck. Her legs were unsteady, but her mind was clear. Behind her, she heard her friends following. The galaxy was about to change. Everything they thought they knew about human history, about their place in the universe, was about to be destroyed. And somewhere at the edge of known space, something ancient was beginning to wake up. The council chamber was the largest room on the ship. It had seats for 200 beings, arranged in circles around a central platform. Today, every seat was filled. Cadets from a dozen species sat together, whispering nervously. Instructors stood along the walls with their arms crossed. Admiral sat in the highest chair, his face calm but his eyes sharp. And in front of them all stood. She had showered and changed her clothes, but she still looked exhausted. Her hands trembled slightly as she held the data pad. She could feel hundreds of eyes watching her, some curious, some doubtful, some already dismissive. She did not care. They needed to hear this. "The tablet we recovered from Seven is not an artifact," she began. Her voice was steady. She had practiced this. "It is a message, encoded using mathematical and linguistic patterns designed to be understood only by specific species from a particular region of the galaxy. One of the alien instructors, a tall being with silver skin, made a sound of annoyance. We examined the tablet. Our analysis showed no linguistic content. Your analysis looked for language patterns, replied. But the message was not written for it was written for us, for humans. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Admiral raised a hand for silence. Continue, he said. Tapped her data pad. A holographic image of the tablet appeared above the central platform, glowing symbols rotating slowly. The encoding uses prime numbers and sequences as mathematical keys. These are universal concepts, but the specific application matches mathematical traditions from ancient Earth. The linguistic structure beneath the encoding is built on phonetic patterns that exist only in human proto-languages, languages that died thousands of years before we had writing. She paused to let that sink in. The message is not from it is from humans, humans who traveled between stars 12,000 years ago. The chamber exploded with noise, shouts of disbelief, laughter from some of the alien cadets, angry protests from instructors who had spent their lives studying ruins. Impossible, someone yelled. Humans only developed space travel 3 centuries ago. Your species was barely making tools 12,000 years ago, another voice added. Admiral stood. His presence commanded silence better than any shout. Let her finish, he said quietly. The noise died down, straightened her shoulders. I have the translation, she said. I will show you. She raised her hand and made the gesture that changed the holographic display. The symbols faded. New text appeared, floating in the air where everyone could see. And she read it aloud. To those who find this, we came too late. The devourers move between stars, consuming all. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped by force alone. We sealed what we could. We hid what we learned. If you read this, they are waking. Find the cradle, prepare. She paused. It is signed, the last fleet of Terra. Terra, the old name for Earth. The chamber was completely silent now, not the angry silence of disbelief, the cold silence of fear. Finally, one of the instructors spoke. He was old, one of the floating light beings, and his voice trembled slightly. The devourers, he said, we know that name. Everyone turned to look at him. The spoke of them, he continued. In their oldest records, they called them the endless hunger. The reason they built their empire was to prepare for the devourer's return, and then 40,000 years ago. He did not finish. He did not need to. 40,000 years ago, they vanished. Every colony, every world, every single member of their species, gone as if they had never existed. You're saying humans fought these things? His voice broke the silence. He was standing near the back, his face pale. Nodded. The message says they sealed them. They won at least for a while, but the war destroyed everything they had built. The survivors returned to Earth with nothing. Their technology failed. Their numbers were too small to maintain their civilization, so they buried their history and started over. Why? Asked. Why would they hide something so important? Because they were afraid, said softly. Afraid that knowledge of the devourers would drive humanity to despair. Afraid that we would give up before we had the chance to grow strong again. So they left us this warning, hidden where only we could find it when we were ready. Admiral walked slowly to the central platform. He stared at the floating text for a long moment. Can this be? He asked. The encoding is verifiable, said. The mathematical and linguistic evidence is solid, but there is only one way to know for certain. We need to check Earth's oldest records, the places we never looked, the secrets we never thought to uncover. The Admiral nodded slowly. He turned to face the assembled council. I am declaring this a priority investigation, he said. All findings will be reported directly to Union Command and to Earth's government. We need to know if this warning is real. And if it is, one of the alien instructors asked, what do we do then? Admiral looked back at the floating words, "Find the cradle, prepare." "Then we do what the message says," he replied. "We prepare." As the meeting ended and the chamber emptied, remained standing at the platform. She stared at the words she had translated. Words written 12,000 years ago by people who had seen something terrible. People who had fought and bled and sacrificed everything so that their descendants might have a chance. Her ancestors, her blood. And somewhere, at the edge of the galaxy, the seals they had created were beginning to crack. The news spread faster than light itself. Within days, every inhabited world in the Galactic Union had heard about the tablet, about the translation, about the impossible claim that humans had once ruled the stars. Reactions varied. Some species laughed and called it a hoax. Others demanded independent verification. A few of the oldest species, those with long memories and longer histories, grew very quiet. On Earth, the government responded with silence. No statements, no denials, just silence. Until the vaults were opened. Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, buried under 3 kilometers of frozen water, there was a place that did not appear on any map. It had been sealed before recorded history began. Its existence was known only to a handful of people in each generation, passed down through secret channels, protected by oaths older than any nation. Now, for the first time in 12,000 years, its doors opened. Was there when it happened. Admiral had brought her personally, along with a small team of scientists and military officers. They had traveled in secret, telling no one their destination. The entrance was hidden inside a research station that officially studied ice cores. A hidden elevator took them down through the ice, down through rock, down into a chamber carved from the bones of the Earth itself. The doors were massive, black metal covered in symbols that recognized immediately. The same spiraling patterns as the tablet, the same mathematical encoding. "We always knew there was something here," said the woman who had met them at the station. She was old, with white hair and steady hands. "My family has guarded this place for generations. We did not know what was inside, only that it must stay sealed until the right time." "And now is the right time?" Admiral asked. The woman looked at. The tablet chose her. If anyone can open these doors, she can. Stepped forward. Her heart was pounding. She reached out and touched the cold metal surface. The symbols began to glow. Blue light spread across the doors, tracing the patterns she had spent days studying. There was a deep sound, like stone grinding against stone, and slowly, impossibly, the doors began to open. Beyond them was a vast chamber filled with wonders. Ships, ancient ships, preserved perfectly despite their age. Their designs were strange, mixing curves and angles in ways that modern engineering could not explain. They were beautiful and deadly, built for war. Around the ships were storage containers sealed tight, weapons, armor, tools, technology that made the most advanced Union devices look like children's toys. And along the walls were screens. Hundreds of screens, dark and silent, waiting to tell their stories. Walked forward as if in a dream. She touched one of the screens. It flickered to life. A face appeared. A human face. A woman with dark hair and tired eyes, wearing armor that glowed with inner light. "If you are watching this," the woman said, "then the seals have weakened. We feared this day would come." The recording continued. The woman spoke clearly, her voice carrying the weight of everything she had seen and done. "My name is not important. I commanded the last fleet of Terra. We were the survivors of a war that lasted 300 years, a war against an enemy we called the Devourers." Images appeared beside her, ships burning in the void, planets cracking apart, creatures that looked like nightmares given form, flowing through space like living shadows. The Devourers are not a species. They are a hunger, a need that consumes everything it touches. They do not negotiate. They do not stop. They spread across the galaxy like a plague, feeding on the energy of stars and the minds of intelligent beings. We fought them with every weapon we could create. We died by the billions. We allied with every species we could find. The makers of light. Together, we pushed the devourers back. The images changed. Ships gathering in formation. A great structure forming in the void. A tear in space itself, glowing with terrible light. We could not destroy them. Nothing could destroy them. So we sealed them. We created a dimensional prison at the galaxy's edge and trapped them inside. The seals were designed to last forever. The woman's voice grew heavy. But nothing lasts forever. We knew the seals would weaken eventually. We knew someone would need to fight again, so we left warnings. We hid our technology. We prepared as best we could. She looked directly at the screen, directly at. If you are watching this, the time has come. The devourers are waking. You must find the cradle. It contains everything we learned, everything we built, everything you will need. The cradle is hidden where it all began, where the first humans looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them. The recording flickered. We believe in you. We have always believed in you. You are our children, our hope, our legacy. Do not let our sacrifice be meaningless. The screen went dark. Stood in silence. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Behind her, she heard Admiral speaking urgently into his communicator, calling for more teams, more scientists, more resources. But she was not listening. She was thinking about the woman in the recording, about the billions who had fought and died, about the ancestors she had never known existed. They had saved the galaxy once. They had given everything so that their children might live. Now it was time for those children to stand up and fight. A message arrived on Admiral's communicator. His face went pale. Long-range sensors have detected anomalies at the galaxy's edge, he said quietly. Energy signatures matching nothing in our databases. The dimensional barriers in that region are destabilizing. He looked at. The seals are breaking. 1 month later, the galaxy had changed forever. The vaults beneath Antarctica were only the beginning. Once humanity knew what to look for, they found more hidden sites. In the deep caves of Africa, where ancient paintings showed ships flying among the stars. In the mountains of Asia, where temples built on older temples hid chambers full of preserved technology. In the deserts of Australia, where songs passed down for thousands of generations contained star maps waiting to be decoded. The First Fleet had not just left warnings, they had left gifts, weapons, ships, knowledge that advanced human technology by centuries in a matter of weeks. The Galactic Union watched with a mixture of awe and fear. The species that had mocked humans as newcomers now saw them with new eyes. These were not primitives stumbling into space. These were the descendants of galactic warriors, heirs to a legacy of survival against impossible odds. And when they returned, everything changed again. They came from the spaces between dimensions, where they had hidden for 40,000 years. Tall beings with silver skin and ancient eyes. They had waited, watching, hoping that the seals would hold. Now they came to fight alongside their old allies once more. We remember, the ambassador said, standing before the Union Council. We remember when humans were young among the stars. We remember how they fought. We remember their courage. The ambassador looked at, who sat among the human delegation. And we remember the promise we made. When the devourers return, we will stand together again. The preparations moved quickly after that. The technology from the vaults was studied and replicated. Human engineers worked alongside scientists, rebuilding weapons that had once pushed back the darkness. Ships were constructed using designs 12,000 years old, updated with modern improvements. Found herself at the center of everything. She had translated the first warning. She had opened the first vault. Now she led a task force searching for the cradle, the repository of knowledge mentioned in the ancient recordings. The clue had been clear, where it all began, where the first humans looked up at the stars. They found it in Africa, in a valley where ancient bones had been discovered centuries before. Buried deep beneath layers of rock and time, protected by seals that only human hands could open, was a chamber larger than any of the others. The cradle was not just a storage facility. It was a library, a museum, a monument to everything humanity had achieved and everything they had sacrificed. Walked through halls filled with holographic records, she watched the history of the First Fleet unfold before her eyes, the discovery of faster-than-light travel, the first contact with alien species, the early explorations full of wonder and hope. And then the war. She watched ships burning, worlds dying, soldiers fighting against shadows that could not be killed. She watched humanity rally again and again, refusing to give up even when everything seemed lost. She watched the final battle, the creation of the dimensional prison, the sealing of the Devourers. And she watched the survivors return to Earth, broken, exhausted, but alive. "We did this once," she whispered to herself. "We can do it again." The day came when the seals finally broke. Energy poured through the dimensional barriers like water through a cracked dam. Sensors across the galaxy screamed warnings. The darkness at the edge of known space began to move. The Devourers were free. They came like a wave, like a hunger given form. They consumed everything in their path. Small colonies fell first, then outposts, then entire systems. But this time, something was different. This time, the galaxy was ready. Admirals stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned battleship, the Ancestor's Memory. It was built from First Fleet designs, armed with weapons that the Devourers had hoped were lost forever. Around it, a fleet larger than anything in modern history gathered. Human ships from every species in the Galactic Union. They had all answered the call. "All ships," said, his voice carried across 1,000 bridges. "This is our moment. 12,000 years ago, our ancestors faced this same enemy. They won. They gave us the chance to live, to grow, to become who we are today." He paused. "Now it is our turn. We carry their legacy. We carry their strength. And we carry their refusal to surrender. Today, we show the Devourers that humanity remembers. Today, we finish what our ancestors started." The fleet moved forward. On a smaller ship near the center of the formation stood at her station. She was no longer just a linguistics cadet. She commanded the intelligence division, using her skills to decode enemy communications, to find weaknesses, to guide the fleet through the chaos of battle. Commanded a squadron of fighters, leading them into the darkness with the same calm confidence he had always shown. Worked in the science division, analyzing Devourer biology, searching for ways to destroy them permanently. Kept the communication networks running, ensuring that every ship could coordinate, every soldier could hear their orders. They had all grown. They had all become what their ancestors had hoped they would be. The battle was terrible. Ships burned. Soldiers died. The Devourers fought with a hunger that seemed endless, a need that could not be satisfied. But humanity fought back, with weapons forged from ancient knowledge, with tactics learned from 12,000 years of waiting, with allies who had stood beside them once before and would stand beside them again. And slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. Watch from her station as the fleet pushed forward, as the dimensional prison was rebuilt, stronger than before, as the Devourers were forced back, sealed once more in the void between dimensions. When it was over, when the last Devourer had been contained and the last seal had been set, walked to the observation deck. She looked out at the stars, at the ships of a dozen species floating peacefully together, at the galaxy that had been saved. Found her there. He stood beside her, saying nothing, sharing the silence. "They forgot us once," said quietly. "The galaxy forgot what we were, what we did." She turned to look at him. There were tears in her eyes, but she was smiling. They won't forget us again. And somewhere in the great void between dimensions, the sealed devourers waited, patient, hungry, eternal. But humanity would be waiting too, ready, prepared, unbroken. Forever,